Okay, so I will start this video off by simply saying I don't actually remember where I left off last time, where I got to last time, but I've had a lot of progress. So one, you might notice that there is new styling for the admin panel. There is also, let me pull this up, new styling for the front end. Now, you might think to yourself, this looks like shit. This looks terrible. But the uh, the important thing is you can actually control it. So if we go to styling, boom, all the colors for the website are actually defined in here. So we got a label, a color picker, and then some default colors. Um, and yeah, and then we could say the font types, the border radius, the default global border radius, stuff like that. Now, this is for the front end, so this is for the websites, and then the storefront, right? Then we also have the same for email styles. I've yet to really do a lot with this, as we'll see in a minute. But yeah, so that's where the styling for this comes from. And so yeah, all of it's completely dynamic. It looks terrible just because I haven't customized it at all. But yeah, then I can show you the rest of the website. So I can just X out of that. Yeah, so now pages are built a little bit different. We actually have a visual editor, courtesy of Puck Visual Editor. If you haven't heard of them, I would really recommend them. They're excellent. And so what it is it's this drag and drop editing build system. And so I could change it. So custom section title. Now the styling imports on this iframe are kind of off. They are not how I want it to be. But then yet you could drag and drop, container, little accordion, boom, boom. You can change what it looks like. So like I was saying, some of the stuff is off, and this is actually what I'm currently working on right now, the making this look nice and clean. Um, as you could tell, it's kind of buggy at the moment. But then if we were to go to localhost region slash test page, you will notice that this content will then appear um, over there. And then they've got this outline, so let's get rid of this container. I don't like that. And then, yeah, boom, boom, boom. You can see all of this stuff. Heading, test heading. Let's move this back up to here. Publish, publish. And then Puck has the ability to build plugins. So I'll have a media plugin, and this will connect to the PayloadCMS media library. This will allow users to drag and drop videos, documents, pictures, all of that stuff in. And then components is a component library. So if you want to make one of these custom ones, you'll have the ability to save it to here and pull from here and then drag and drop. So that way it's standardized across the website. And so yeah, here's the here's it with the terrible styling. And again, these are kind of like really simple UI elements that have just been generated by Google Gemini. Um, simply to, and you can see like how these styles are different. Just simply to test out everything to make sure it does the basics what I need it to do. Um, but yeah, all right, moving on to the next thing. So exit the editor. So yeah, that is this. And the way it actually works is this is a UI element, and then there's a hidden field of JSON, and Puck stores the data as JSON, and so it's really compatible with Payload CMS. So you could just kind of swap in the actual things, and it works pretty much seamlessly. The next thing are email templates, and so this is another um, similar Puck creation. So you pick a subject line oop, and then this will be the subject line for the actual email template. And the idea is you can have actual like variables inside of it. So I'll show that in a second. And then the type. So these are the ones that are supported at the moment. And I'll be working on explaining more about that in a minute. The config. So if you need any special JSON or whatever, I think I'm going to remove this bit. I think it's too much for the admins at the moment. And then the um, leave anyway. Visual editor. So again, very similar, very, very similar, except I did this last night at 1 in the morning. so it has zero styling. Um, but yeah, it doesn't even have like I haven't even set up like the inline text thing. So this would be the main header, and then this would be the secondary header. Publish, boom, 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 and then this is actually a React email component, so that will save this as a React email, obviously because it's a React email component. And so it's a very similar setup to the actual pages. And then yeah, so sites styling saves all of this stuff, and then it's from here, and it does the same exact thing for the emails. Um, I added role-based authentication or role-based access controls. And so now you can set up the name. If it's an admin, it'll get access for everything. You can control the collections. And so this is a little bit of styling issues. I really want these to be a label, but I haven't gotten to this yet. And you select one of these collections, and then you could say what operations it can actually perform. Same for the globals, and then the page builder. So um, are they allowed to edit existing blocks, insert? And so this is how you can control the actual page builder. And I'm thinking of changing this to simply from Puck permissions to visual editor permissions, just because they don't actually know you'll be using Puck. And it works for globals as well. So you can say footer, header, site settings, and then we'll say styling, you can update. Cool. That's saved. And so now people with the staff role can actually do stuff like that. The next big thing, and this is the thing that's been killing me for a while now, is actually providers. So if you remember before, I had set up as their own individual collections, payment providers, notification providers, um, uh, fulfillment providers, stuff like that. But now I've switched to a singular system of just the providers itself. And so this is, we'll say Shippo. And so you select what module is it for? So fulfillment, notification, or whatever. And the actual provider. Um, this is not filtered right now based on the actual module that I'm working on that later. I'm just trying to get things to work here. The environment, is it test, is it live? And then the priority starts at 0 is the lowest, and so that will get the highest priority, and then so on and so forth. Is it enabled? Configuration, I'm going to switch these out with specific blocks so that I can have stricter typing for it, or I might do a typed JSON. Um, but yeah, we'll see on that. And then health was this is something I was like, this could be implemented, but this could be tricky, so and might not even be needed. And so yeah, I switched to that, and you can see on regions or whatever, um, tax payment provider, so you could yeah select these new fulfillment ones and all of this. And then I also added site settings, default providers, these backups, and then yeah, that's kind of it on this side. Oh, I also added CMS features, very simple so far, or CRM features, I mean. So tickets, support types, customer notes, and messages. So customer notes, you could say, yeah, my friend did this, super tiny toes. They're not, they're normal sized toes. And then customer groups if you want to, save it, boom. And then you could actually, yeah, so we'll create a new one, and I'll just walk you through the process. Test customer, no groups, and then this is a test comment. And then if we were to actually go to the real person, their customer notes would appear up there. And then some other things are tickets, so you can create a ticket, so your header, description, the type, the owner, so who issued the tickets, messages, and so this pulls from the messages that have been set up in relation to that. Is it open, resolved, priority, responder, when was it assigned at, all of these different cool things. Okay, yeah, we'll exit. And then messages, these are for within it. So someone creates a ticket, you can assign it to the ticket, the sender type, who's it coming from, the contents of it, is it internal? So will this only be seen to the staff? Attachments, so people can actually add videos, text, images, documents, all of that stuff. And then you could check to see has it been read or whatever. So the little simple things like that. And then I went through and did a lot of work on the actual formatting of things. So let's say we were to click on products, t-shirt. I added these tabs, and you can see these on all of these collections. This, again, styling issues. So I'm just trying to get everything to work. Um, so yeah, a lot of these things, third parties was set up. So now you can have an API key, the name of it, and so this can control authentication, which is already being used in the actual worker. Um, I can show you customers, test customer. Yeah, and so you can see here's the email. You can force unlock if you need to access their account. Um, Orders, so you can see here's the all of the orders that are attached to the person. Obviously none. Addresses, CRM. So this you can see. Oh, here's the note. You can edit it and adjust the note. You can do all of this stuff. So this is why Payload is honestly my favorite CMS ever. Um, and it's really powerful. And then that's kind of it on the backend side of things, backend slash front end with the page building and email building. Next, what I was working on is actually repo management. So as you can tell, this is a mono repo. That means everything is in one repository, and it's kind of broken down into little bits, which is good because I need shared typing between the front end and the back end. The front end being payload and the back end being my workers. So these workers consume the event. So when customer is created, it releases an event called customer.created. So we can go to apps, worker instance, and then we could say source and internal worker. So what happens is, first of all, we have providers and modules. So modules are like commerce, payments, fulfillment, shipping, stuff like that. And so within each of those modules, they have providers that have been set up. So within payment, you might have Stripe, you might have Aiden, you might have Polar, so on and so forth. So what this does is this worker fetches these providers that are set up in this middle layer, which I'll get to in a minute. And um, every 10 minutes it gets new ones because you don't want to bog down the system for every request fetching these providers every time. And so this goes through and it uses the third-party API key that you're set up. And so when you create a worker, you'll probably end up creating a API key for each worker. That way, it's just as secure as possible. And then this manages the actual providers, this manages all this stuff, and then here's the creation of the notification module. And so this is coming from this service layer, this middle layer in services. So you create your provider as notification, your from email, your payload base URL, what environment is it actually running in, and then the actual API key. And then when the customer is not created for the actual event, you go to the customer workflow and you trigger the onCreate. And so I can actually walk you through this. Uh, Customer workflow. God damn it. Okay, so this is inside of, there it is. So this is actually inside of this little um, core commerce shared middle layer. So the middle layer has things that are used by both the front end and the back end. Um, and then packages is types. So I output all of my payload types to here. That way the back end can properly reference the front end in a secure manner without ever having to worry about um, types being misaligned. And so here we have the base URL, and it's setting this up based on this notification module type. And so this is a standardized type to create this. So we have our base URL, which has the get base URL, payload API key. This way, we're not actually passing the information; it's shared securely. And then so here's your onCreate method. So it says, okay, we're going to listen to this event, customer.create. We're going to, because this is doing emails, we're going to render our email template. We're going to render specifically the account creation. And we're going to pass in our base URL, the actual data that we want to render, So that's the data payload for the event. So that would be first name, last name, email. And I can actually show you this in types. I think events types. Yeah. So you customer.created, passing in the email, the first name, last name, user ID, and the status of it. And so this is the, again, secure typing that I am implementing. And this is the shared commerce layer. So once we have this, we render our email template. For our email template, it can either be, this is something that can be accessed by both the front end and the back end. And so the local API path, so this is when we're inside NextJS and Payload, we're going to simply use our native request to find the actual template where it equals a type and it's also enabled. And we only want one. Um, and then if there's nothing, we'll just render an empty array. And then same thing for the subject line. If we're not inside it, we need to use this base um, uh, like primitive kind of query, and we need to pass in our third-party API key because again, we need security. We don't want anybody to be able to fetch and mutate this data. So yeah, then we get in here, and then here's our docs. Again, once again, if we have no data returned, we return the array. From here, we then get this HTML output uh, right here, and then we return the HTML plus the subject line. So this email layout, um, yeah. So the email layout then renders all of this stuff and maps all of the blocks to this. I think I'm actually still working on this. I think this is the previous one where I was implementing the payload CMS version, but now I switched to Puck, so I think this needs to be updated. Yeah. But going back here, so now we have this result, which is this HTML. We could say, okay, the workflow was triggered and we've created the template. Then we'll go here, and if the result is good, we will then do the notification module.send, which is again one of these functions off of this base type, this base interface. We'll say to, and we're going to say the payload email. The subject is the actual computed subject line, and then we're passing in the email. And that's kind of the same for all of these, but I can show you what the actual notification module looks like. Okay, so this notification module has this base constructor, and then it has a send function. So the send function handles the obviously sending it, and then for each of them, the implementation is different. So for this one, for resend, we're saying we're going to create the SDK for resend with this past API key, and from there, yeah. This I will need to be updated to process.env.api key because we don't want to be passing the actual resend API key back and forth like that. And then we'll output here, and this has been tested. If you go to my LinkedIn, you can see I just put a screenshot up a couple of days ago of the event being created over here in real time, and then the event actually being answered over here with two terminal setup. But then it takes the from message and uses the resend SDK to send it, passing in the subject and then the actual HTML of it. And so all of these are kind of, yeah, here's like the definition for it, the actual interfaces and the types. So all of them, the idea is let me shrink this stuff back down. The actual idea for this is these modules that we have. So fulfillment, inventory, notification, payment, tax, or whatever, each have their own base module, which defines how everything should be implemented. Then from there, and with this type safety, and then from there we can create a provider for each of them to handle the actual implementation of all of the interface requests. And that is kind of what I've been building in the back end. The big part again is this update in um, repo, handling the shared layers between it, the sharing of the types, and then the actual apps of the main commerce platform, and then the actual worker instance. And then again, these red lines just mean that there is this tsconfig error, which I've yet to address because they're deprecating the base URL. So I have to watch some sort of video on how to modify this. But yeah, that's it so far. Um, yeah, I'm using Upstash for my queue, resend for emails, and this is kind of all set to change. But yeah, I do hope you gained something from this, or at least enjoyed walking through the code base. Um, I do apologize for my lack of video entertainment level. Um, I don't really edit, I don't really do stuff like that, because I honestly do not have time with college, and programming all of this stuff and homework. So I just kind of sit down when I have free time and I record. So I do apologize for that, but I do hope you enjoyed this or found it interesting and inspired you to check out Payload, because I really do enjoy the actual project, and I think it's really kind of a great tool to use if you want to build anything, because it's unlike any other CMS I've used. Not Sanity, not actually I can't think of any other one off the top of my head that's anywhere near this. But yeah, sorry for rambling. All right, see ya.